Thanks again for having me today. So if you start to look at some of the industry analysts out there, you can look at Gartner, GigaOm, IDC. They're all ranking NetApp as the #1 data storage OS for data management these days. And that goes across a variety of locations that we're going to talk about today. It includes edge sites, core sites, and cloud sites, right? And we're here at the AWS show, and we're going to focus a lot on the cloud part of that. But I do want to talk about how we relate to hybrid cloud and can help join those different areas out there. So it's important to note that NetApp has a strong 10-year plus relationship with AWS. And you can go back to 2012, where we created one of our first solutions called Cloud Volumes ONTAP. And we're going to talk more about CVO as it is infrastructure as a service that can be deployed on a virtual machine in AWS and provide some great value and benefit on managing your data in the cloud. We've grown that relationship over the years, as you can see, and in the last 2 or 3 years, we've really come out with some advanced capabilities around cloud tiering, where we can take stagnant data and put that out to lower cost mediums like object storage, S3 in the cloud. Like cloud backup, we can now create separate full copies of your data out to object storage in the cloud. All of this saving cost and saving time, and then giving you full redundant copies of data to recover. And also Cloud Data Sense. We'll talk a little bit more about that, how we can analyze data in the cloud in any location around governance and compliance of that information to help you identify what needs to be protected, what's sensitive. And we also have our Spot by NetApp family, which is actually a way to analyze all of your compute infrastructure in the cloud. So that might be new to some of you that know NetApp. It's not just data management that we're doing these days, it's also about infrastructure optimization. So Spot can look at all of your Spot instances, your Kubernetes clusters, and your commitment purchases, and help you consolidate those down and save up to 70 or 80% of your compute cost in the cloud as well. And then we've added various caching technologies out there, and we even have a virtual desktop service now, believe it or not, where we can sell seats, or you can use the service and manage hundreds or thousands of desktops in the cloud and configure all of their profiles, their home share directories, and do something on a single pane of glass that might take 3 or 4 people several weeks to do, and 1 or 2 people can do this in an hour, okay? We're very proud that in working with Amazon as much as we have, that we were the AWS ISV Partner of the Year in 2021. And that was primarily because of FSx for NetApp ONTAP, which I'm going to talk about today as well, and the value it brings. We also have numerous competency awards, as you can see here, in a lot of different areas. Since we're at the public sector event, I'd like to focus on the government side of that and the public sector side, where we're working very strongly with AWS. So in regards to cyber and ransomware, it's a crazy time we live in, right? All you have to do is read the trade rags, see the headlines, the news, what's happening out there, and you can see some of the main ones that have happened in the last couple of years. SolarWinds, WannaCry, Colonial Pipeline, the JBS meatpacking incident, and all of these disasters cause customers and agencies, sometimes agencies, to pay millions of dollars back to the ransom guys to get their data back. And oftentimes it was in Bitcoin as well, so they can try to hide the trail of that. But regardless, we need ways to protect our agency's customer data and data from these attacks. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So when you look at a data-centric ransomware protection capability, you want to try to focus on 3 main areas. Infrastructure management, infrastructure monitoring, and then the infrastructure services, right? We want to know what we have, we want to know how to best protect it, and we want to have a way to recover, right? And then we want to continue monitoring and optimizing and protecting going forward. So around infrastructure management, this is where NetApp has worked a lot with AWS. And these capabilities are in both our Cloud Volumes ONTAP offering and also in our FSx for NetApp ONTAP offering. And I'll talk more about the two and the differences in a moment. But these benefits are fundamental. So our snapshots, number 1, are a way to make pointer-based copies of data in seconds. So a lot of companies have snapshots, but they'll write the original data blocks to a scratch location and then write the original data blocks. That's called a double write performance penalty. So we don't do that. We very simply write out the new block and then update the pointer to that block. So it means we can take hundreds of terabytes, even petabyte-sized volumes of data, and make a point-in-time snapshot copy in about 2 seconds or less. And that copy is read-only, and it's nothing more than a subdirectory in the volume where the data itself exists. It's all built into the ONTAP volume, and you don't need any software anywhere else on your clients, your applications, or servers to use this. And you can copy data out of that subfolder from the time that snapshot was taken, right? And these snapshots are read-only, so they're immutable, which means it protects you from people corrupting them or trying to infect and encrypt them from a ransomware protection as well. And then to further that capability, we have something called SnapLock. And SnapLock is more of a worm write once, read many capability that can lock any volume based on a compliance clock. So why is that important? You've probably heard of things like the Securities and Exchange Commission, right, where you have to lock things for auditing and integrity reasons. But more importantly, the cyber attackers are getting into customers' environments today. They're deleting all of the backups first. Then they encrypt the primary data. And customers don't have any choice but to pay to get their data back. Now, if you back up your data to a SnapLock volume that locks that volume for 3 months or 12 months, you can write that and nobody can delete it until the compliance clock expires. So now you have a known, safe place to recover your data from a SnapLock volume. That's why it's important, and we're seeing a huge demand in SnapLock capabilities, and this works in the AWS cloud services as well. Okay? We also have SnapMirror and SnapVault. So SnapMirror replicates any one volume to another volume. You can run that from edge to core to cloud, or hybrid to cloud, or within cloud. And you get the same data on both volumes, and you have a full second copy that you can fail over to for disaster recovery, HA, et cetera. The SnapVault capability lets you archive those snapshots for a longer period of time and retention. So we can have 1,023 snapshots on each volume. So my SnapVault destination could have many months or even years of data to go into those folders and recover data. I don't even have to use any backup software at all to do that. It's all built into the data service. SnapRestore is a way to revert to a snapshot. So let's say you had a snapshot at 8 o'clock this morning that was a good data set. You got a WannaCry hit at 9 o'clock, 9:30, all your data is encrypted. What are you going to do? Well, if you have that 8 a.m. snapshot, a SnapRestore, simple command, can revert the entire volume back to 8 a.m. by just taking that pointer set of the original data and making it the active file system. So I could have just recovered 100 terabytes, 500 terabytes of data back to 8 a.m. in 2 seconds. Sounds like magic, but it does work as advertised, I promise. Okay, so that's SnapRestore. And then F-Policy is our file policy interaction tool, where we work with about 10 or 12 different other vendors out there around file inspection, antivirus scanning. We can quarantine, we can grant, deny access to that. So think of things like Symantec for antivirus, Varonis, these other companies that do data analysis. They're all partners, and then you can set policies based on file types to have them inspected and controlled and managed. And our autonomous ransomware protection, we've added in the last 2 years. Now we're tracking user behavior analytics in the volume data access itself. So over time, if we see someone who works Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 come in on 2 a.m. at Saturday night, and they're downloading all the data or doing a bunch of reads they shouldn't be doing, we will just take a snapshot before they start. And now I've got a recovery point to recover my data using that snapshot in case they did something devious, right? And cloud backup we touched on, that's a way to take any ONTAP volume, wherever it exists, in the cloud or on-prem or hybrid, and back it up to object storage. So we'll do a full efficient backup, in this case, to Amazon S3 object. It's very cost effective, and you have a complete second set of your data to recover from with ease, okay? So now over to the monitoring part of this. If you look at a couple of services we have here that are really important, Cloud Insights and Cloud Secure. So Cloud Insights is a way to inspect your compute and your data elements in the cloud. Cloud Insights will work with NetApp storage and non-NetApp storage, and it'll work with any infrastructure because we've put all of the APIs, over 500 different application programmer interfaces from other vendors are in the Cloud Insights tool. It can connect to hybrid and on-prem sites as well. So we can analyze HP, Dell, IBM, Hitachi, NetApp, anybody's data, and compute. And Cloud Insights can tell you the right number of virtual machines to have to optimize your cost around compute, and it can track your data growth and figure out when you need to add capacity. It can find free unused capacity, right? And on average, customers can save 33% of their costs in the cloud using Cloud Insights. And that Cloud Secure part is doing the user behavior analytics in the cloud on the volume activity and taking those snapshots, and even granting or denying access to data based on trending from the user. Now, Cloud Data Sense is one worth mentioning. That is a service that will go out and analyze pretty much any data in the cloud. It'll look at file data, it'll look at database data, it'll even look at object data. And then whether it's on NetApp or not, it doesn't matter. Why is that important? Because now we build a list of all your governance and compliance concerns. We'll come up with what's sensitive. Is it something like HIPAA data? Is it PCI data? Is it Sarbanes-Oxley, GDPR, CCPA, SEC 17.4a? If you're a security person, you recognize those terms, we'll come up and identify what's sensitive, what you need to protect, where you might need to move something, what you might want to encrypt, right? And what you might want to delete, because certain agencies have time constraints, and if you have data after 7 years, for example, it might be toxic, meaning you don't want to own it because you're responsible for it. So we can identify that as well. So Cloud Data Sense is a tremendous service for that. For example, the Pfizer Medical Corporation, we've all heard of them. They just bought a 15 petabyte license of Cloud Data Sense to start analyzing all of their data. Okay? So the other thing we have with NetApp is our data protection and security assessment. So we have a professional services team that can go out and look at your ONTAP volumes anywhere they reside, in AWS, CVO, FSx for NetApp ONTAP. It could be core, it could be hybrid or edge. We will assess those and figure out what data you have and give you a plan to best protect those data, whether it be encryption or where it's located, and make sure you have it optimized in regards to security. Okay? So that's a way to have a service and continually optimize what you're doing. So when you look at the summary of the cyber and ransomware capabilities, NetApp truly has multiple ways for you to protect and detect and recover, right? Those are three of the main things that NIST will tell you with their cyber framework, and also throughout various parts of their zero trust architecture framework. But you want to first protect. So we do that with the snapshots, the SnapMira, the backup, the recovery. Then you want to detect the activity. We do that with things like Cloud Data Sense to analyze what's there, what's changing. And we also do that with the user behavior analytics to take those proactive snapshots if someone's reading and writing or encrypting data or doing too much activity when they shouldn't. And the third one, the recovery, right? That comes from the snapshots, the SnapMira, the SnapVault, to be able to easily recover that data, right? And the Snap Restore as well to revert the volume. All of this is built into the ONTAP services, right? You don't have to have other software anywhere else to do this. It's built into Data ONTAP. The other topic of today I want to talk about is just the abundance of data and the growth of data. And if you look at various studies out there, IDC is saying that by 80% of all data by 2025 is going to be unstructured. File-based enterprise apps are candidates to move to cloud now. Everybody's trying to do more in cloud, and file data is very prevalent in moving to cloud, right? And that's where AWS and NetApp can help. And then 59% rather of organizations expect to be mostly cloud-based, certainly within the next 18 months. And depending on your customer or yourself, some are there now. And while they do these things that are required of them, they also want to know that they have the best cost performance, the best security, reliability, as well as the best data management. How do you do that? You do that with the data fabric architecture from NetApp and AWS. okay? The nice thing about this data fabric architecture we're talking about is you can have that data in any location from edge to core to cloud, like I talked about, and seamlessly migrate it and replicate it and have it available where your users are, where your application is, and then let them have the efficiency, the savings, as well as good performance and high availability, and the security on that data all at the same time. You get a unified platform, meaning you get your choice of file and block protocols. I'll talk more in detail in a second. And you get that seamless interop capability as well as the efficiency and saving and the protection, okay? So Cloud Volumes ONTAP, let's talk about how it might work in AWS. Effectively, you would install this as infrastructure as a service onto an EC2 instance. So you install it, you manage it, you operate it. It's going to use some EBS storage. It's going to tier out to Amazon S3, and you can control how much of the tiering happens with a couple of parameters. And then it stands up standard interface connections for NFS versions 3 and 4, for Windows and CIFS connections version 2 and 3, and then iSCSI block storage is now readily available in the cloud. So these are the same standard POSIX interfaces that have been around for 30 or 40 years, and most every customer and agency is using some of these somewhere, especially if it's file data, on-premise, hybrid, or in the cloud. Now it's all built into the NetApp service, and Cloud Volumes ONTAP does that for you. You get the dedupe, the compression, the compaction, and tiering, saving 30 to 70% of your cost and footprint and your time to manage, and you get all of the other Snap features I mentioned as well. And you can easily replicate and migrate and lift and shift from on-prem to the cloud and cross-cloud. The other thing I'll mention is that CVO is fully available in all of commercial cloud, all the GovCloud data centers, right? And it's in C2S. So if you have intelligence agencies that need the secret cloud, it's there. And it's also in some IL6, IL5 and IL6 environments as well, okay? Now in regards to FedRAMP, a lot of our federal agencies care about that. This does not have FedRAMP authorization, and it doesn't need it. It's not FedRAMP eligible because it gets installed on a virtual machine in the customer's cloud environment, and it adheres to the security boundaries they already have in their cloud. So this one's ready to go right out of the gate and gives you a lot of capabilities there, and it doesn't need FedRAMP. Now, the next really big announcement, this came out in August, and this is Amazon's service, not NetApp. It's a first-party service they built by taking all of our data ONTAP capabilities I've been describing and building it into their cloud as a first-party managed service. Owned, operated, sold in their marketplace, and it actually has all of the integration to all of their capabilities to run with all of their apps. You can deploy it with their infrastructure and their management interfaces, or you can deploy it from ours. And as you can see a quote from one of the Amazon general managers here, this is one of the fastest growing services that Amazon has ever seen in the last 3 months since it's been stood up. I know the first week it stood up, I heard we had 1,600 instances in 1 week go up on this service. Because it just up and runs, and then you read and write to it and talk to it with ease like you would anything else, and you don't have to spend so much time managing it, right? So what does it look like? FSx for NetApp is similar to CVO in that it's a managed service, but it runs on the CSP's infrastructure. So it's running on Amazon's infrastructure, and depending on the performance and capacity you need, there's a variety of sizes to deploy. But it gives you all of the SnapMirror capabilities, the caching, the synchronization, all of the standard protocols, including all NFS, CIFS, and iSCSI. And it talks to a lot of the other services out there, and it does the tiering out to S3, okay? This does need FedRAMP, and it's under process. And I'm being told by Amazon, there's some folks in the room that will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm hearing July timeframe. We're anticipating a FedRAMP high authorization. And if you need FedRAMP today, you could stand up CVO, put your data on that today, and then SnapMirror it from CVO with the data fabric over to FSxN. Now you're running on the fully managed service, right? So great benefits there. A couple of example use cases for FSxN would be enterprise-grade file shares. You can run database. You can do high performance, whatever you need, software development. You also have all of the data protection in there, the snapshots, right? The SnapMirror, the SnapVault, the way to recover data. And you also get the full hybrid cloud capabilities because it can talk to all of the NetApp ONTAP volumes no matter where they are, and be able to replicate from on-prem hybrid right into AWS. So you can use it for practically anything, and it can tie and talk into most anything anywhere else too, okay? So it helps you extend to cloud, right? If you want to burst or extend from on-prem to cloud, backup and recover to cloud, we can do that. The DR falls in. A lot of customers will stand up their production, maybe on-prem and backup, have a full set in cloud, or vice versa. They might stand up and run in cloud, and they have a production copy on-prem, or in another region, or another zone. It doesn't matter, but you get that full DR copy to fail over and recover. So lift and shift, check. We certainly do that. So any on-prem apps that use file and block are going to get the same interfaces in cloud. You can replicate that data up and access it 100% the same way you did on cloud. And then lastly, you can launch modern day applications and then refactor in the cloud or along the way and run practically anything, Kubernetes apps, et cetera, on top of FSxN. All right, a couple of customer examples here. The US Navy is a big customer of ours that we jointly have. They are running on-premise flash arrays and hybrid arrays, getting a lot of the benefits there. And they chose to tier out their cold data blocks to Amazon S3 in the cloud. So they saved 45% of their on-prem flash cost by putting that cold data up into Amazon S3. They also stood up Cloud Volumes ONTAP in the cloud, and they're replicating data from on-prem to that as another backup and recovery point. But this just shows the variety and ease of how you can tie in core and hybrid instances to the cloud availabilities out there. And this one's really interesting. This is more of an international customer. It is public sector, but NSW government is a healthcare organization that has put 1.3 petabytes of medical imaging data on FSx for NetApp ONTAP. And they're getting the efficiency savings out of that, the high availability, the backup recovery, the good performance, and it can all be encrypted at rest and protected. So it doesn't get better than that to summarize all the capabilities and have it all kind of tied up into one offering that makes it easy, right? So now is the time to talk to NetApp, right? If you have any interest in any of the data management and security capabilities we talked about, talk to us about CVO, talk to us about FSx for NetApp ONTAP, and then let's talk about a data protection and security assessment. So our professional services team can look at what you have and figure out what to do. We have a variety of testing capabilities, a lab on demand that'll spin up in 5 or 10 minutes and fully let you test this in the cloud for free. And then when you're done, you click reset. And I used to say we eat our own dog food, but now I say we drink our own champagne, right? You know what I mean? So basically, when you're done with that lab, we do a snap restore and revert the whole lab back to where it came from. And in 10 minutes, you just undid 4 days or 5 hours or 3 weeks of work, whatever it was. But Lab on Demand is great. There's about 40 or 50 of those out there that you can test drive and see this happen. We also have a proof of concept lab we can build. It's also got a hybrid cloud connection where we can build out any customer's environment, be it NAS or SAN or object on-prem, whatever apps they have, enterprise apps, connect it to cloud, replicate it to cloud, run cloud native apps up there, test it, fail over back and forth. And we're glad to set that up and make that happen for you. And we also help reduce and work with the AWS credit opportunities out there, right, in a big way. So if customers have agreements in place with AWS, bulk pricing and so on, we help do the burn down on that to make sure they keep their good pricing there by working with this. So that's what I had today. I thank you all for the time, and also don't forget to take your surveys. And I think I ran out of time, but any questions real quick before we end? Comments, thoughts? I got a thumbs up. That's good. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you all so much.